South Africa, this could be great news. It seems like our economic problems may be coming to an end. And the way it's going to end, it seems, is with the family of Paul Mashatile just doing the most extraordinary business that you've ever seen. And just on their own, they should, completely end unemployment in South Africa. I have never seen a family this good at business as the Mashatile clan. Paul Mashatile recently did an interview with Sizwe Mpofu Walsh on SMWX, where he was asked about the fact that he lives in a 38 million rand house in Waterfall City and a house in Camps Bay. And he explained that the house is actually owned by his son and his son-in-law. They run a couple of filling stations in Soweto, according to our deputy president. He was also asked about his sister-in-law winning the lottery. And he explained it had nothing to do with him. And the fact that his other son got a contract to provide some fire extinguishers to the hospital, but that's the only government work he's ever done, other than getting a loan from some agency in Gauteng. This was when Deputy President Mashatile was Minister of Arts and Culture, and he was nowhere near the Gauteng government. So in other words, all of these family members, his son, his other son, his son-in-law, his sister-in-law, are just magnificent business people that rarely do business with government, and he's never once intervened to ensure their business success. Now, I don't want to bore you with the particulars. You're probably frustrated enough, as am I, but let's just look at some facts here. When one starts a business, you've got about a 1 in 3 chance of success. Right? 65% of businesses tend to not make it. And most of the businesses that do make it are what we would call lifestyle businesses. These are businesses that give you a salary to live on. You know, somebody that might own a store or this or that, a plumber, he makes a good living. It's very rare that you end up, the strike rate in getting a business where you can spend hundreds of millions of rand on housing, that's rare indeed. That's rare air. That's, 1 in thousands. And he's surrounded by 3 in his own family. Nothing to do with him. No, he fills in all the forms. He's not anywhere to be seen. In actual fact, he went and he said to them, please, make sure that you don't do any business with any government because, I'm the deputy president and it would look bad. So they don't do any business with the state. Well, other than his sister-in-law gets a lottery tender. But, are we really meant to be this naive that we believe that in one family you can have super-duper entrepreneurs in different places doing, these wonderfully big businesses and earning, hundreds of millions of rand? I don't think it's likely. Much like I don't think it was likely back in the day when Jacob Zuma was president. Everybody around him kept on having successful businesses. Remember his very fat son or nephew or whatever he was. Suddenly the guy owns mines and things like that. I think we've got to understand that we're into the next generation of grifters. These aren't people, that will drive around in an Aston Martin like Nomvula Mokonyane. These aren't people that will get their own houses built like Jacob Zuma or Gwedi Mantashe. This is the next generation. They're a little bit smarter than this. So they don't do the business in their own name. It's a family's name or a friend's name. He doesn't, let's face it, if you're coming home to a 38 million rand house, does it really matter whose name that house is in? This isn't being bought with a bond. It's a house. So the house happens to be in Joe Bloggs' name, but I'm living in it. Electricity magically gets paid. The water magically gets paid. It doesn't have to be in my name. I deriving the benefit of living in the business, in that particular building. It's as bad as that guy that's now in trouble, with the whole Gupta scheme, that Anwar Singh, who was paid as the FD of Eskom, First Transnet, then Eskom, and never spent 1 cent of his salary. Not 1 cent. What did he tell the Zondo Commission? Well, it turns out I'm a gambler and I'm just very good at gambling. So to take it back to our Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, you're not going to find anything in his name. These people are a little smarter than that. We're going to have to work out a kind of an Al Capone type of way of getting to our politicians. What happened with Al Capone? Well, Al Capone ran this crime syndicate, but it was never him killing anybody. It was never him robbing. It was never him running a brothel. It wasn't him running illicit liquor. It was other people. All they could get him on at the end was tax evasion. The guy was living the high life without getting any income. But back in 1930s America, those gangsters never thought that you could send somebody to jail for tax evasion. And it was an obscure thing. Nobody had been sentenced to that kind of thing before. So I got a feeling that if we want to stamp out corruption, and that's a big if, we would need prosecutors that think very, very differently. Because none of our crooked politicians that we have now are stupid enough to do it in their own name. It's all going to be the people around them, and it's going to be further and further away as investigators get closer. And it's time for us to just be a little bit more savvy about how we investigate these cases. But all I can say is that I'm not sure about you, but I'm deeply uncomfortable with a deputy president that lives in other people's houses that are worth tens of millions, knowing that he can't be touched because it wasn't done in his name. If you thought Nkandla was bad, this is the same. Thank you for joining me on the Political Insider. We'll see you again soon. Okay, we're going to try and wing one more to go out whenever it goes out.